It's time again for Northwestern Outdoors Radio, the show covering fishing, hunting, and all sorts of outdoor recreation and destinations right here in the region you live and play in. Northwestern Outdoors is brought to you every week by Max Lure Company, makers of the world-famous wedding ring spinner, by Loophole, America's Optics Authority, and by Sportsman's Warehouse, America's premier outfitter. Northwestern Outdoors is also sponsored by Wallowa County in Northeast Oregon, where you'll find both nature and fun. By Chad's Coastwide Sports Fishing, offering you the affordable Canadian fishing trip of a lifetime. And by Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors. So grab your fishing rod or hunting gear, load up the boat or lace up your boots, and let's head outdoors with your host, John Cruz.
Things change. I know that. That's what happens when you record a show a week in advance of when it's going to air. What I'm saying today may not be true when you hear this, but the big news coming out of this past week was the nuclear option that's been pressed for sports anglers in and around Western Washington's Puget Sound. In case you missed it, the director of the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife announced last week that not only is salmon and steelhead fishing closed in Puget Sound, but all fishing, that's right, fishing for even trout, kokanee, bass, perch, catfish, bullhead, it's all shut down on a number of big popular lakes in the region on the off chance you might catch an endangered salmon or salmon smolt. If you're an angler who fishes in this region, well, let me tell you where you stand in the pecking order. First, come the tribes who are fishing, albeit with permits to do so. Then the cormorants, then the mergansers, both of which are devouring far more salmon smolt than you'll ever catch out of area lakes. After that come the osprey, then of course the seals and sea lions who love to eat salmon. And finally, is your blood boiling yet? Yep, you're the next one in line. I get it. I'm frustrated too. And this week on the show, we're going to be spending some time explaining how we got to this point. It all started with a horrible forecast for coho salmon coming into the Puget Sound. And we're going to let you know what you might be able to do to help get this grounded ship called the Puget Sound Sports Fishery off the reef and back into the water so we can drop a line in there again and catch some fish. With us to help us break this down is a man who knows a lot about the subject. It's Tony Floor with the Northwest Marine Trade Association. You're not going to want to miss what he has to say. Salmon fishing is limited along the northern Oregon and Washington coast as well this year, but at least there is a season. Larry Giese with Deep Sea Fishing Charters will tell you about your options fishing out of Westport, not only for salmon, but for bottom fish and for crab as well. Heading to the freshwater, Lance Mers will tell you about a lure our Canadian friends are using with great success to catch both kokanee and trout. It's a lure we probably ought to be fishing with too, south of the border. We've got an interview recorded at SHOT Show this year with the folks at First Light. It's a company out of Ketchum, Idaho. They manufacture some really great hunting clothing that is made out of merino wool. It's designed to keep you comfortable and hidden whether you're in the field in late summer, fall, or winter. Speaking of hunting, we'll also get to talk to well-known Oregon huntress and television personality Candy Yao about the Northwest Ladies Hunting Camp taking place near Monmouth from June 10th through the 12th. If you're a lady who wants to become a better outdoors woman and learn how to in the company of other women, this event is for you. Throw in an update about an Idaho waterfowl die-off, news about the passing of a well-known wildlife artist, and our Sportsman's Warehouse trivia question of the week. And we've got one heck of an hour of outdoor news and analysis coming your way. But before we get any further, it's time for another edition of Sportsman Spotlight. This week, we learn about a new law in Washington State limiting baiting for deer and elk. Sportsman Spotlight is sponsored by Chad's Coastwide Sports Fishing out of Port Hardy, BC, a place where, unlike Puget Sound, you can actually fish for salmon and catch quite a few of them. The forecast there is great. I'm heading up there to fish with Chad Calder between the 21st and the 23rd of June. And guess what? Chad's got another opening during that time frame. In fact, he's offering a special discount for anyone who says they heard this on our show and books for that time frame. Find out more about the all-inclusive saltwater fishing adventures you can have at coastwidesportsfishing.com.
This is Sportsman Spotlight with Matt and Tom.
Many of us outdoorsmen hunt multiple neighboring states. That's why it's always good to know your regulations and new updates. This is Sportsman Spotlight, and today we have guest Madonna Lures, Public Information Officer for Washington State to go over some new hunting regulations.
Citizens came to our commission and said, we want you to take a look at this because there's some abuses of that and where there's massive baiting. Washington is one of the few Western states left, I think Oregon might be in this camp too, that still allows baiting of deer and elk for the purposes of hunting. Baiting of other animals is prohibited in different ways, like you can't bait waterfowl, and that's a federal rule, and can't bait bears. That was outlawed by initiative years ago. But deer and elk, we have allowed baiting. And so the commission has been looking at this for a while, and they passed a limit to that. They passed a limit where you can only put out like 10 gallons of bait, and most bait is things like apples or some hay or whatever, and you can't have it within 200 yards of another bait station.
Thank you, Madonna. Great information. And just to mention that Colorado, Idaho, and Montana also do not allow baiting for deer and elk. It's always good to read your fish and game regs or consult with your local fish and game office.
Looking for a quality fishing adventure that won't break the bank? Then head to Canada for an all-inclusive fishing vacation with Chad's Coastwide Sports Fishing. Big salmon, halibut, snapper, and lingcod are waiting for you off Vancouver Island. But space is limited, so book now at coastwidesportsfishing.com. That's coastwidesportsfishing.com.
You're back with Northwestern Outdoors Radio. It's the SHOT Show edition. We're visiting with Ryan Callahan. He's with First Light. It's an outdoors clothing manufacturer based in Ketchum, Idaho. They got some really good stuff here at the show. Ryan, welcome.
Hey, thank you very much, John.
Let's go ahead and tell folks first off about your company. You're located in Ketchum. Tell us a little bit more about what you do.
Really what we do is hunt and fish a lot. I mean, we're in Ketchum, Idaho. It's kind of a goofy little mountain town, but the ease of access to the outdoors, the immense amount of public land that we have, we can get out and product test, which is the fun part of this gig. I mean, honestly, I can't imagine any other company that gets to do it more than we do.
So you've got two basic things that we've got going here, and they're shared by one product. So we have base layers and we have outerwear, but it's all merino wool.
Yeah, you know, we started as just a merino wool company. You can ask anybody in the mountaineering world, ski sports, it is a magical, magical fiber. So we started with merino. It's the best thing possible to have next to skin in any condition. And we moved into some really highly breathable technical outerwear that's also based off of that magical kind of merino philosophy.
Riddle me this, the difference between regular wool that I wore as a younger man that would get wet, it would smell, and merino wool, which I like to wear now, which is breathable and doesn't smell. Is that the main difference, or is there more?
I do like to say, hey man, it's just the sheep, it's not us. But, you know, that sheep is in these very extreme conditions, much like most of us living in the, you know, the Rocky Mountains. You know, high elevations, drastic temperature change, but that merino fiber is naturally very, very fine and very, very smooth. And the smooth part is a big deal because it doesn't allow bacteria to build on those fibers. So you do get way less smell, but it's also much softer next to skin.
Okay, so I'm starting to get a very basic education here. Merino must be a type of sheep, and obviously it's found somewhere in a hardy climate.
Yeah, you know, exactly, yeah. I'm explaining. I should teach a class. No, so, yeah, merino is a type of sheep. New Zealand is known for merino. Truth be told, you know, Australia produces, you know, 98% of the world's supply. We're starting to get a decent amount of finer fibers here in the U.S., but it's not quite to our standard. Merino can also be found in parts of Spain, some parts of South America, but, you know, we source every strand out of New Zealand at this point. We work with some growers that approached us, and we hit it off, and if you ever get a chance to hang out with the Kiwis, they're great folks. So.
Yes, they are. I've known a few in my time. All right, let's turn our attention to your base layer clothing here, because you basically have different base layers for different activities, and I love the fact that some of it's in camo, too.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we pioneered camouflage merino wool, first people to ever do it, and competition's fantastic, and I don't badmouth anybody, but we'll put our merino against anybody, especially outside the hunting industry. So we'll go after any mountaineering company out there.
So I'm looking at your display here. On the women's side, you've got a lightweight base, you have the midweight base, and then you have the active hunting, which is in camouflage, which I just love. On the men's side, you've got the hot weather base, and that seems kind of counterintuitive. Why would you have what looks to be almost like long johns as a base layer for hot weather?
You know, it's all about humidity next to skin, the evaporative cooling, the glass effect, clo values, all these crazy terms. Really what it means is just try this stuff. I tell people just get a pair of boxer shorts and you will be the happiest person out there. They're amazing. So, yeah, you maintain a certain amount of moisture next to skin. You're always losing water. Doesn't matter if you're sleeping or climbing. You're always losing water, and merino helps control that moisture level, and it gives you this kind of optimal condition that keeps you cool when it's hot and keeps you warm when it's cold. So it is a magical fiber. Our hot weather base is kind of a first for the hunting industry, first in any industry, to be honest with you. It's an intimate blend merino. So it is a combination of merino wool and synthetic, and we can print on it, which nobody's been able to do before. So, but basically hot weather, where you're sweating things out, you know, no matter what you're wearing, it can't keep up with the moisture. This material can mitigate that moisture better than anything else out there.
So on the men's side, in addition to that hot weather base, you've got lightweight, you've got midweight, and then we head over here and we actually get into some outerwear. And this is really cool. I mean, number one, it's all camouflage. Number two, it looks like it's camouflage to meet the conditions we have here in the Rocky Mountain West, too.
Absolutely. We launched our Fusion pattern last October. Incredibly versatile pattern. We run 2 patterns at this point. ASAT, which, you know, lots of people in our neck of the woods are familiar with. It's been around for a long time. We took a lot of the concepts of ASAT, which we've been, you know, that's been our go-to camouflage, and we combined it with natural spectrum color palette.
So tell me more.
We have this breakup philosophy, right? You want a versatile pattern. You don't want to have different clothes for every situation. All of our gear, including our camouflage patterns, do multiple jobs. Like, a lot of us rolled river rats and guides. Like, you need stuff that can do more than one job, or else you just can't take it on the trip. So our pattern Fusion is that exactly. It's got a color palette that can match just about anything in any conditions. It's got large and small breakup elements, so if it'll break up when you're close to an animal, it'll break up when you're far away. It's an incredibly versatile pattern.
So just like your base layer pattern, you've got this in different weights. So you've got a lightweight one, you've got medium weight, and then you've got stuff for when it's really cold out. But again, it's all breathable. It's all meant for active wear, isn't it?
It absolutely is, and really that's the key, right? It's active or inactive. So if you're a stand hunter, we can cover you there as well. But you're going to find that our really heavyweight stuff, you know, guys that go on like an active muskox hunt, that stuff is going to move just as well as our lightweight stuff that's meant to be moving all the time, even though it is a big, truly cold weather system.
One more thing I want to talk about here is not only do you have merino wool for your outerwear, but you've also got some waterproof shells as well. Now, are these breathable, and are you using Gore-Tex, or what are you using here?
Well, that's a great question. Glad you asked. So merino's this magical fiber, right? We were approached by this company called 37.5, and they basically analyzed this merino fiber. This thing can keep you warm when it's cold, keep you cool when it's hot. It also moves moisture better than anything. They took that technology, found what could make it work in a synthetic, and based their entire waterproof, breathable system off of the merino fiber. So it was just this perfect match for us. And so our jackets are lightweight and heavyweight, waterproof, breathable jackets. Breathe incredibly well. It's 37.5 is the technology, and they're actually out of Boulder, Colorado.
All right, we are running short on time. But again, folks, the company is First Light. Light spelled L-I-T-E. They're based in Ketchum, Idaho. Very innovative company, as you're hearing right now. Where can people find this clothing line, and is there a website, too, we should tell folks about?
Yeah, our website is firstlight.com. And you can also find this in select retailers all across the U.S.
So there you go, folks. It's firstlight.com. That's firstlight.com. Check them out. Go to the dealer locator, and you'll be able to find a retailer near you which carries this really innovative clothing that you're going to want the next time you hit the field. Ryan, thanks for telling us all about this on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
John, thank you very much.
Leupold Gold Ring Optics are built to perform at the highest level, shot after shot, year after year. Our rifle scopes, binoculars, spotting scopes, rangefinders, and more always come through when you need them most. That's why our American-built products have a lifetime guarantee. Or as we like to say here at Leupold, they are guaranteed for a lifetime of performance, not a lifetime of replacement. Find out more about our top quality gear and our lifetime guarantee at Leupold.com. Leupold, America's optics authority.
This is the time of year to get out and cook out. So make your next meal sizzle with Camp Chef, the brand known for quality outdoor cooking. From camp stoves to cast iron, from smokers to grills, Camp Chef will change the way you cook outdoors. To eat like a king on your next adventure, go to campchef.com or visit your local sporting goods store and get cooking. Whether you're serving breakfast in the backcountry or barbecue on the back patio, savor the simplicity with Camp Chef. Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors.
The road is calling you to experience one of Oregon's 7 wonders, the Wallowas. So grab your hiking boots and camera and capture the beauty and grandeur of Northeast Oregon's Wallowa County. Experience nature like never before when you saddle up and ride into the Eagle-capped wilderness, hike the trails of the Wallowas, hear the wind rush through the bunch grass and view the wildlife of the Zumwalt Prairie, or ride the churning waters of the wild and scenic Wallowa, Snake, and Grand Ronde rivers. This summer, take the road that leads to wonders. It begins at WallowaCountyChamber.com.
You're back with more of the great outdoors on Northwestern Outdoors Radio with John Cruz.
It's time once again for an extended Max Minute.
Fish on!
Brought to you every week by Max Lure Company. With us again is Lance Mers. Lance, I understand that our friends north of the border know something about Max Lure products that those of us in the lower 48 don't seem to understand.
You know, it's one of those things down here that kind of gets forgotten in the back of that tackle box a little bit, John. It's called the Max Lure UV Magic Imperial Spoon, and it's an ultra lightweight spoon. It's got a plastic body, a single hook, and it gives it a dodging and darting action in the water that catches a fish.
What are Canadian anglers using the Imperial Spoon for?
Well, they're mainly using it for trout and kokanee. Now, the trick to this is a lot of people will actually bait the hook. Don't bait the hook. If you bait the hook, you're losing your action altogether. So just take a bit of gel and coat it over the spoon itself. It'll keep the scent on there for about 30 minutes, and you'll catch fish.
So what kind of scent or gel would you recommend?
You want to use an oil-based scent, okay? The oil will stay on there, and it does absolutely fantastic.
So when it comes to fishing it, obviously it's very lightweight, so I'm guessing that folks are trolling this behind keel weights or what have you.
You can use keel weights. You can use a gank troll, like a Max Lure flashlight. You can use a Double D Dodger. You give it a longer leader length, probably about 3 or 4 feet. It'll give you a lot of action.
So, trout, kokanee anglers, this works very well north of the border. There's no reason it's not going to work here either. It's the Max UV Magic Imperial Spoon. Again, that's the Imperial Spoon. Look for it at a sporting goods store near you or online at maxlure.com.
Looking for that extra something that will get more salmon or trout into your boat? Then check out the Double D Dodger from Max Lure. The Double D does double duty and helps you catch more fish. The Double D's flash attracts lunkers, and the Dodger's patented stop-start action works wonders to get those fish biting. The Double D does even more by acting as a side planer to get your bait away from the boat where the fish are more likely to be and more apt to strike. The Double D Dodger. It's the Dodger you've got to have from Max Lure.
Looking for a quality fishing adventure that won't break the bank? Then head to Canada for an all-inclusive fishing vacation with Chad's Coastwide Sports Fishing. Big salmon, halibut, snapper, and lingcod are waiting for you off Vancouver Island. But space is limited, so book now at coastwidesportsfishing.com. That's coastwidesportsfishing.com.
Want to earn a serious reward? You can, and all you need is a fishing rod. There's money to be made catching northern pike minnow. There's too many of them in the Columbia and Snake Rivers, and we'll pay you cash to catch them. Pike minnow eat our salmon and steelhead, and that's no good. The season starts May 1st, runs through September, and the more fish you catch, the more you earn. How much money can you make from this program? Well, last year, one angler earned a cool $100,000. Find out more at pikeminnow.org. That's pikeminnow.org. Go ahead, collect your reward.
It doesn't matter what sort of adventure you're after. Whether it's big game deep in the backcountry, a day of fishing out on the water, or an overnight in the great outdoors. At Sportsman's Warehouse, we've got the gear in here for what you need out there. Gear up for your next adventure at one of the Sportsman's Warehouse stores or shop online. Sportsman's Warehouse. America's premier outfitter.
You're back to Northwestern Outdoors Radio, and the big news this week is the statement from Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife Director Jim Unsworth, published on May 12th, where basically he says WDFW and state fishery managers were unable to agree on this year's salmon and steelhead fisheries in Puget Sound, and because of that, there will be no salmon and steelhead fisheries in Puget Sound until the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife can secure federal authorization for that. This is separate from the tribes. The tribes are getting their permission, and WDFW is trying to get their own authorization so sport anglers can fish. In addition to no salmon or steelhead fishing, they have closed lakes to all fishing. I'm talking about Lake Washington, Lake Sammamish, Lake Union, Monte Cristo Lake, Barney Lake, and Lake Cushman on the Olympic Peninsula. Now, this isn't just salmon fishing we're talking about here. This is bass fishing. This is perch fishing. This is kokanee fishing. You can't do any of that on these big, popular lakes around the Sound because you might accidentally catch a salmon or a salmon smolt. So here's where we're at. And with us here to try to break down what's going on is Tony Floor with the Northwest Marine Trade Association. Tony, thanks for taking the time this morning.
You bet. Good to talk to you, John.
Tony, how did we get to this place? I know that WDFW and the tribes were negotiating and it broke down. Were they close? Why did WDFW walk away?
Well, it's a very, very complicated issue, and of course the state and the tribes are requested by the NOAA Fisheries to come together jointly to seek one permit that applies to both groups. And in more recent years, the tribes have become more active and more adamant about attempting to manage Washington sport fisheries. And let me explain that quickly. Both parties need to agree. In other words, if we object to one of their fishing proposals throughout Puget Sound, then that freezes progress towards an agreement. The fact of the matter is the state just about never objects to any of the tribal fisheries, where the tribes have been getting louder and louder about attempting to restrict sport salmon fisheries. So the issue, the limb has been bending and bending and bending, and finally this year it snapped. We have no agreement.
Yep, and it all started because of these god-awful coho salmon forecasts that we have in the Sound. That was the trigger, so to speak, and now it's been pulled. So, but I got to ask you, though, Tony, shutting down warm water fisheries, kokanee fishing in places like Lake Sammamish and Lake Washington, and trout fishing and landlocked Chinook fishing, Lake Cushman, which is going to destroy that resort season. Is this an overreach?
Well, the first point is, everyone needs to pay the conservation price on the very, very, very poor coho forecast. But this no agreement issue is about Chinook. The tribes have said no to Chinook, while the anglers pursue hatchery fish. Even with that issue in hand, the tribes have said no. So so no agreement was based on Chinook and not coho. In terms of being overreaching, the guidelines are set by NOAA Fisheries under the Endangered Species Act. It's their job to enforce Endangered Species Act and oversee any potential take of listed stocks. And over here in Puget Sound, there are 4 Chinook stocks that are listed as threatened. So that governs. You have to have your package presentable to the tribes, and they review it, and if and when you get a permit, it is governed by NOAA Fisheries to make sure. So it's a pretty hard stretch to say no fishing for just about anything. Remember, this is uncharted territory, and neither the state or even the tribes have been through seeking a permit separately. So an optimist would say, come on, guys, let's review this quickly, and it's important to be on the water by the 1st of July when salmon fishing really kicks in most of the places in Puget Sound and tributary rivers and lakes. So the way that I see it is we still have about a month and a half to get this issue straightened out. But right now, it is looking pretty bleak.
You're listening to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. We're talking to Tony Floor with the Northwest Marine Trade Association about salmon fishing, or the lack thereof, in Puget Sound, and the shutdown of several lakes in the Puget Sound region as well. Tony, the Northwest Marine Trade Association runs the Northwest Salmon Derby Series, very popular series that has tournaments and derbies taking place throughout Puget Sound. Obviously, these are all shut down. What does this mean economically to the communities where this takes place?
Well, when we look ahead, and of course the Derby Series is all about promoting sport fishing, in July, August, and September, if there is no salmon fishing during that time, 5 of our derbies go down with no permit closure. I think whether there's a derby or not is a lower precedent than anglers' ability to go out any day of the week and go salmon fishing. So yeah, we're disappointed that there may not be derbies in July, August, and September, but it's really about all the salmon fishermen of the Northwest and their opportunity to go fishing on hatchery fish has been shut down.
Now, something else I need to bring up here is it's been brought to my attention that the tribes are fishing for salmon with gill nets. One of the tribes was recently up on the Skagit River using gill nets to catch salmon, and as everyone knows, a gill net catches not just hatchery fish, it catches the wild fish too and kills them both. How is this happening? How are the tribes doing this?
Well, the tribes, by their treaty right, can fish any way they want. And I'll use a radical example here. If a given tribe sets a regulation to use dynamite to execute their fishery, technically they would be allowed to do that. So a gill net is the way that they fish, and it's how they fish for years, maybe going back a couple centuries, and maybe not monofilament, but the bolt decision allows them to fish by whatever means to attain their 50%. You're right. You're absolutely right. We are fishing on hatchery fish, and we can release unmarked wild fish or ESA protected fish where gill nets kill everything. The application of calling them curtains of death is absolutely true. The only way you release a fish out of a gill net is into your cooler because it's dead. It doesn't survive. So that's the way the tribes fish, and again, it's overseen by the federal government, but that's the law of the land right now.
Okay, and one other thing I got to ask, and we're starting to run short on time here. Have the tribes already obtained a NOAA fisheries permit to do this? I mean, I understand the treaty rights part, but I've seen in some media circles that they're seeking this separately, and I've heard in others that they actually have preliminary approval.
They have preliminary approval for their spring fisheries. That's their May and June fisheries that target spring Chinook in areas where there are harvestable numbers of spring Chinook. So the feds have granted that early season permit, and now they're working on their summer permit. So it's very frustrating for us as anglers to sit on the sidelines and be told to stay on the sidelines when the tribes are clearly in the HOV lane, getting fast access to a permit and being able to execute their early fisheries.
One last thing. Sport anglers are frustrated. Is there anything they can do to help get fishing open again in Puget Sound and at these popular lakes?
Absolutely, and that's a great question. And remember, the permits come from the federal government. So contacting their congressional representative, the governor's office, whether it's by email, fire away. That's one of the best and few things that can be done, expressing frustration, and it's not fair for us to be sitting on the sidelines wanting to fish for hatchery, Chinook, and coho salmon, and the tribe's been given an early green light to go ahead and fish with gill nets.
All right, we got to go, but before we do, website for the Northwest Marine Trade Association.
You can simply Google Seattle Boat Show or the Northwest Marine Trade Association. The site will come on, including the Northwest Salmon Derby Series, and we're available at all 3 locations.
There you go. That's Tony Floor breaking down this mess in Puget Sound for us. Tony, thanks. Always appreciate your time.
All right, buddy. Good talking to you.
Want to earn a serious reward? You can, and all you need is a fishing rod. There's money to be made catching northern pike minnow. There's too many of them in the Columbia and Snake Rivers, and we'll pay you cash to catch them. Pike minnow eat our salmon and steelhead, and that's no good. The season starts May 1st, runs through September, and the more fish you catch, the more you earn. How much money can you make from this program? Well, last year, one angler earned a cool $100,000. Find out more at pikeminnow.org. That's pikeminnow.org. Go ahead, collect your reward.
Welcome back to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. It's time for news and reports from the field, and we're taking you straight to Westport, Washington, where we're going to talk to Larry Giese. He is the owner of Deep Sea Charters there. Larry, good to have you back on the show.
Good to be back.
Larry, let's go ahead and talk about salmon fishing this year. Bad news across the board for salmon anglers, especially if you like to catch coho. There is basically no coho fishery off the coast, and Chinook salmon fisheries have been reduced as well.
Yeah, that's right. We're going to have a one Chinook bag limit this year, but like I was talking to you earlier, it's not that much of a bad thing, because normally we don't catch a limit of Chinook for everybody. Normally that's all we catch anyway. So, if you're a really good fisherman, you can go out and catch 3 or 4 fish, but you only go home with one. But that guy that isn't such a good fisherman will go home with a fish. So it's kind of good for everybody as a whole.
So what are the seasons this year? Because I know that has changed as well.
Yeah, we start July 1st and go 7 days a week through August 21st, or our quota of 16,600 Chinook. So we think we'll make it through August 21st.
So fairly short season, but for those folks who are thinking, I don't want to go to Westport for one salmon, I think, folks, you're making a mistake. And Larry, I want you to explain why, because you've got not just salmon fishing trips, you've got bottom fishing trips. Do you offer combo trips?
We do. We're going to offer combo trips, so we'll go out and fish for some salmon and then go for some rockfish too. And if lingcod are biting, we'll go for those instead. So our combo trips are great. We're also offering rockfish lingcod trips, which have been phenomenal so far this spring, and we offer those throughout the end of the season, which is the middle of October. So, and we're also going to be doing some tuna fishing. A lot of the guys that don't normally go tuna fishing will be, after August 21st, we'll be planning some tuna fish trips. So we're going to have 1 day, day and a half, and 2 day trips.
Oh, well, that sounds fantastic. So, again, you got tuna options, you've got the salmon, and don't sell those bottom fish short. I remember going out a couple years ago on one of your boats, and we just slayed the rockfish. I mean, it was nonstop action for 45 minutes. Everybody was pulling them on board. So you can catch a lot of fish out of Westport, but you only get to keep one salmon. But you get to catch lots of other fish in terms of the tuna, in terms of the lingcod, in terms of the rockfish. So don't be afraid of going to Westport. You can have a great fishing adventure. And we need to talk about something else. You don't necessarily have to be in a boat to have fun in Westport. The boat basin, the marina, you're there, and there's a lot of other things there in terms of things to do and great places to eat and drink.
Yeah, that's right. You can actually go crabbing right off the docks here in Westport, and that's a lot of fun for the family that they don't want to really spend a lot of money, but have something to do, and it's kind of fun for the kids.
And folks, let me tell you, I've done this drill before out at Westport, and you can actually walk way out on the dock, so you're basically at the jetty there, and you can cast out there for some bottom fish. You can go ahead, if you don't have a crab ring, you can go ahead and rent one from quite a few places. Do you rent them still at Deep Sea Charters, Larry?
No, we don't, but the service station up here does, and one of the other charter offices does that, and I think the Holiday Motel out there on the end of the jetty runs them also. So there's places you can get them.
And that is a ton of fun. And don't forget to eat some of the great restaurants they have there. And by the way, Bennett's Fish Shack, if you haven't been there before for the fish and chips, especially the halibut and chips, you're missing out if you don't stop there. All right, so lots of things to do at Westport. The fishing's still good, but we're down to one Chinook salmon, reduced season, but again, lots of other options. If people want to book a trip with Deep Sea Charters, what's the website? What's the phone number?
Yeah, it's deepseacharters.biz, and the phone number is 1-800-562-0151.
That's 1-800-562-0151, 1-800-562-0151, or deepseacharters.biz. Larry, thanks for giving our listeners a whole bunch of reasons to come to Westport this summer.
Yeah, thank you, John. Great talking to you.
In other news, we have a passing to share. Terry Redlin, the famous wildlife and Americana artist, passed away at the age of 78. If you've ever been to a Ducks Unlimited banquet in the last 25 years, you've probably seen some Terry Redlin prints. Terry actually retired in 2007 because of his struggles with dementia, and that in the end is what took him from us. Terry's first print was in 1977, and enthusiasts actually collected over 2 million art prints. I've got one hanging in my office as well. One of Terry's most generous gifts was the Redland Art Center. It was built by Redland to repay the state of South Dakota for an art scholarship awarded him earlier in his life. The center displays over 160 of Redland's original oils, early childhood sketches, and numerous articles from his career. It's part of a gift back to his hometown of Watertown, South Dakota, and the center's open year-round. The admission is free. Might want to check it out if you're in the area. Again, Terry Redland passing. Sad story, great artist, we'll miss him. Moving to eastern Idaho, test results are back about that die-off we told you about. That's right, in mid-March, some 335 migrating snow and Ross's geese were found dead over a period of several days at Mud Lake in the Market Lake Wildlife Management Area. It's the second consecutive year a die-off has occurred in this area. Tens and thousands of snow and Ross's geese migrate through this area every spring on their way to nesting grounds in the Arctic. Fish and Game staff collected several goose carcasses from both wildlife management areas. Toxicology tests show that they died from phosphine gas, or at least some sort of phosphide. It's used in agricultural settings, but it's not known exactly where the exposure to these geese occurred. Idaho Fish and Game is working with the Idaho Department of Agriculture and the USDA to provide outreach and education to possible handlers of phosphide products so this doesn't happen again. Stick around. We'll be right back to talk with Candy Yao about the Northwest Ladies Hunting Camp coming up June 10th through the 12th. And we've got our Sportsman's Warehouse upcoming events and trivia question of the week.
Want to earn a serious reward? You can, and all you need is a fishing rod. There's money to be made catching northern pike minnow. There's too many of them in the Columbia and Snake Rivers, and we'll pay you cash to catch them. Pike minnow eat our salmon and steelhead, and that's no good. The season starts May 1st, runs through September, and the more fish you catch, the more you earn. How much money can you make from this program? Well, last year, one angler earned a cool $100,000. Find out more at pikeminnow.org. That's pikeminnow.org. Go ahead, collect your reward. Leupold Gold Ring Optics are built to perform at the highest level, shot after shot, year after year. Our rifle scopes, binoculars, spotting scopes, rangefinders, and more always come through when you need them most. That's why our American-built products have a lifetime guarantee. Or as we like to say here at Leupold, they are guaranteed for a lifetime of performance, not a lifetime of replacement. Find out more about our top quality gear and our lifetime guarantee at Leupold.com. Leupold, America's optics authority.
It doesn't matter what sort of adventure you're after. Whether it's big game deep in the backcountry, a day of fishing out on the water, or an overnight in the great outdoors. At Sportsman's Warehouse, we've got the gear in here for what you need out there. Gear up for your next adventure at one of the Sportsman's Warehouse stores or shop online. Sportsman's Warehouse, America's premier outfitter.
One more time this week for Northwestern Outdoors Radio with John Cruz.
It's time for upcoming events, and we're starting off by telling you about the Northwest Ladies Hunting Camp taking place June 10th through the 12th in the great state of Oregon. With us here to tell us more about it is the organizer, Candy Yao. Candy, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
So, Candy, where is the hunting camp taking place this year, and what's it all about?
It's taking place at the Lucky Mute Valley Pheasants Ranch, just out of Monmouth, Oregon, right along the Lucky Mute River. Absolute beautiful setting. We've got a big barn there, and the river runs right along in the fields where we hold all of our classes. It's our third annual, and it's getting bigger and better every single year. We're so excited this year. We have some new companies on board. We have Leupold, Weatherby, Cabela's, Skullhooker, Cryptex, Lumberjack, Onyx Maps, Mountain Ops, Benchmade. I could go on and on and on. They're just, it's amazing to me how the companies are getting behind the growth of women in the outdoor industry and supporting it so much.
And that's what this camp is all about. You're basically inviting women from all over the Northwest to come for a couple of days and take in some seminars and do some hands-on stuff to become better hunters and better outdoors women.
That's correct. We're building confidence and gaining skills, and it's amazing to watch what some of these women in the past few years have done. They're actually purchasing their first bow or their first firearm and going out and harvesting an animal. And we stay in touch via Facebook, and it's amazing. We bring in the very best instructors to teach the classes, and the women are just going crazy. It's been very successful.
Well, Candy, you are one of the more famous outdoors women here in the Northwest. I know you bring some other ones to the table as well to give these seminars, but we need to go ahead and direct people to a website to find out more of the cost. $299 for 3 days, which includes all the meals, is pretty darn reasonable.
Yes, it is. Yeah, they can go directly to ladieshunting.com. Registration's right there online. You can register right there. Once they shoot that registration to me, I have their email, so any questions or concerns after that, just be in touch.
That's the Northwest Ladies Hunting Camp. It's taking place near Monmouth, Oregon, June 10th through the 12th. Find out more and register now at ladieshunting.com. That's ladieshunting.com. It's a great event, and like Candy said, it's just growing bigger every year. Candy, congratulations on doing this, and I wish you a great camp this year.
Great. Thank you very much.
Let's tell you about a couple of fishing seminars coming up at Sportsman's Warehouse stores. One of them is taking place this Sunday, May 22nd, 3:30 to 5 p.m. at the Lewiston store. It's a bass fishing seminar. Sean Walburn, the fishing department manager, is going to be sharing some secrets on where to go catch some bass in this area and how to do it. As a matter of fact, he's got lure selections for the pre-spawn, spawn, and post-spawn phase. This should be really interesting. You'll want to take some notes about this. Then, Friday, the 27th. This one's a big deal at the Wenatchee Sportsman's Warehouse store in Central Washington. It's going on from 12 to 4 p.m. Several fishing pros are going to be sharing their secrets. One of them is our very own Lance Mers with Max Lure Company. He'll be talking about kokanee fishing, no doubt. Ed Iman of Ed Iman Guide Service out of the Dalles, a pioneer of walleye fishing here in the Northwest, will be sharing his secrets. Chris George with Heavy Beads is going to talk about catching trout in this very unique system of fishing. And in addition to all these free fishing classes, there's going to be raffles with giveaways from Max Lure Company, Izerline, Worksharp, Dick Knight, Heavy Beads, Smokehouse, Tika Reels, and Columbia River Knife and Tools. Again, that one's at the Wenatchee store, Friday 27th from 12 to 4 p.m., and these seminars are all free. With that, it's time for your Sportsman's Warehouse Trivia Question of the Week. The kokanee. It's a tasty fish, especially right off the grill. It's got delicious deep red meat. You'll generally find them in clear lakes with deep waters here in the Northwest. But here's your question. Is the freshwater kokanee a trout or a salmon? You've got a 50-50 chance with this one. So go to our Facebook page at Northwestern Outdoors Radio, like our page, find the post, and let us know whether you think the kokanee is a trout or a salmon. If you prefer, you can go to our website at northwesternoutdoors.com. Go to the Contact Us page, and again, just let us know. Those beautiful, tasty kokanee, are they trout or salmon? Everyone who guesses correct is entered for a chance to win the $25 gift card we give away every week from Sportsman's Warehouse. While you're on the web, be sure to tune in to WRVO Radio. It's the home of RenoViolaOutdoors.com. A couple of our listeners have contacted me and told me how much they really enjoy this internet station that's dedicated to outdoors programming 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, covers the entire gamut of outdoors recreation across North America. The website again, RenoViolaOutdoors.com. That's all for this week. A reminder again, I'm going fishing with Chad's Coastwide Sports Fishing in Port Hardy, BC, June 21st through 23rd. They've got another boat open. If you want to head up there and go fishing during this time frame, Chad Calder, the owner, is offering a special discount. The exchange rate is great, and unlike Puget Sound, the forecast for Chinook salmon is fantastic off of Vancouver Island. You can find out more about that at coastwidesportsfishing.com. I mean, if you can't catch fish out of Puget Sound, you can at least catch them up north. And speaking of Puget Sound, do like Tony suggested. Make it a point to contact the governor's office, to contact your U.S. representative, to contact your U.S. senators, to contact NOAA Fisheries and let them know we want a fishery in Puget Sound. If enough people make some noise, something may happen. Until next time, take care. God bless, and make it a point to spend some time outdoors.